While I acknowledge what the external conditions are, I'm a strong believer that financial advisors and financial planners are in such a great business because they have control over their personal economy. So typically, if you examine a financial planner's business, you find that they could be generating a lot more revenue if they would just shift their activities. So regardless of the economic conditions or the financial conditions, they're within their control. And I would argue or put the point of view forward that regardless of the negative environment out there, that people need advice. So people need financial advice when the economy is good. People need financial advice when the markets of the economy is flat. People certainly need advice when things are bad. So I'm just a big believer that whatever your financial conditions are as a financial planner, you're probably in that position more because of your own actions than you are because of the GFC or the regulators, or because when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold, or what's going on with the Eurozone, or Spain has 35% unemployment. This is a business where you're in control of what your results are. So if it's good, my guess is that's because you're doing good work, giving good advice, and you have good business work habits. If it's bad, you could still be a good planner giving good advice, but maybe you're just not out there doing the kind of work to get clients. So essentially, in being a successful financial advisor, you have 4 key elements to running your business. So obviously, taking care of your clients is a key thing. We call that client service. So what is your value proposition? And the bigger your value proposition, the better, because there's not much competition at the high end of value proposition. There's a lot of competition in the medium end and at the bottom end. So client acquisition, we believe in client acquisition by referral. If you're doing a superior job for your clients, it's natural that they would want to introduce you to other people. It's time efficient and cost effective. Then there's leadership. Leadership is leading yourself, having self-discipline and doing what you need to do. Leadership is leading your clients, leading them to make the smart choices so that they achieve their goals. This is being an advisor. Then there's leadership of your team. You've got administrative people and you've got technical subject matter experts. So you've got to lead your team so that you can deliver the best value for your clients, because you can't do that by yourself. It's too much content and it would take too much time to be an expert in everything. And then there's time management, accountability, work ethic. It sort of all falls into that same category. It's actually doing the things that make your business successful and take care of your clients, rather than a lot of things that feel like work. So almost always having a chat with one of your mates about the market that sounds or sort of feels like work, but the reality is it's not producing any result. Work is something that actually produces a result for the benefit of the client or to grow your business. A magazine like yours actually provides content that will help a financial planner grow a better business and do a better job for their clients. But most of the media in general, the general news media, is very distracting. And so I find this is not unique to Australia, by the way. It's the same in the United States and in Canada and the UK and New Zealand and South Africa. Everywhere where I do business, I find that there are a lot of distractions. There's a lot of noise. And so people get consumed with these things that are really, really irrelevant. How important is it really what happened in the market today? How important is it really that Spain has whatever their unemployment percentage is? And so the news media is very effective at putting their news forward in a very, sensational way. And they do that because that's what sells the news. But it's easy to get distracted by those things. So that's one thing right off the bat, is how much time are you spending being distracted by the news rather than focusing on acquiring clients and serving clients. Certainly a lot of planners and advisors, they get consumed trying to help too many of the wrong people. And so it's nice, their heart's in the right place. We want to help. We want to help people achieve their goals. We want to help people be more financially successful. But it's the business of planning. So while it's a helping people business, it's not the Red Cross. So you do have to be sure that you're doing business with people who are paying you adequately so that you can be profitable and successful. very passionate about that subject of not being a salesperson. So I talk about being a trusted advisor, and a trusted advisor isn't just a better salesperson. A trusted advisor is a completely different animal, so to speak. It's sort of like a butterfly isn't a flying caterpillar. So maybe you used to be a salesperson, because most of us come from a sales background. I know that I did, and I had to unlearn a lot of those selling techniques to really be a trusted advisor. So to answer your question directly about the difference in that, there are really 4 key elements to running a successful business as a planner, which might be similar to any business if you think about it. You've got client service and client acquisition, as we discussed. You've also got leadership. And so one of the distinctions between being a salesperson versus running a real highly professional advice business is it's much more about being a leader. And the first thing is not just leading yourself and leading your employees, but leading your clients. So advisors give advice. Advice means you are making recommendations of action. So a lot of planners talk about, particularly as they have more financially successful clients, well, they're in control and they're type A personalities. Well, that's what I call a leadership vacuum. So if you've got Frank Lowy, for example, is in your office and you're talking about financial planning, well, then you're in charge. It's your domain, it's what you know. And I don't mean control in sort of a manipulative way, I just mean control in a professional way. If you're in Frank's office and the subject is shopping centers, he's in charge, he's the leader. But if he's in your office with his spouse or his family and they're talking about achieving their financial goals, then you're in charge. But if you leave a leadership vacuum, when you're supposed to lead, if you don't lead, somebody like Frank Lowy is going to step in and fill that vacuum. So advice is largely about leadership. It's really giving advice and expecting people to take action and leading them. And that sort of ties back, Simon, to my comment about the noise and the news and the media. Well, clients are distracted by that. Well, your job is to lead them to be focused on their personal economy and the actions that they take to achieve their goals, because you can still achieve your goals even if the economy is bad. So that's being more professional. That's a big part of it anyway.
How do you define professional? Is there a definition, a working definition that you have, or how would you explain what a professional looks like?
That's one of the challenges in our business, is everybody calls themselves professional, but how many definitions of that are there actually? So what I believe that a professional is someone who is truly comprehensive. You're really taking care of everything. So to talk about your point earlier about a salesperson would tend to have a particular product or maybe 2 or 3 products, and their focus is on finding people who need those products. A professional is more interested in finding out holistically about the client, what's important to them, or that's their values, the emotional why behind the tangible what are the goals. So being able to have those meaningful, more intimate conversations about what are really the emotional drivers of these human beings. I'm sensitive when I'm in a foreign country, not my own country, not that Australia is foreign, but when I'm not in my own country, these are things that are common everywhere. I often get asked the question, what's different about Australia from the United States or other places where I am? And it's much easier for me to talk about how similar things are. So these are the same basic issues. Many planners, they sort of use planning as a process to sell things rather than really as a process to help people achieve their goals. First of all, what I'm about to say may be a little bit controversial, but whatever the standard is that's put into place by the regulators or the government or some industry body will be the lowest level of professionalism. All right, so there have always been many planners and advisors who have chosen to operate at a very high level of professionalism, and whatever the industry standards are for that the regulators create or the legislators create, those are never the highest standards. So my advice to all planners and advisors is to operate at the highest possible standard, not at the standard that's being sort of forced upon you by the regulators. So in the United States, we have regulatory bodies. They have them all over the world. And the reality is that those are just not the highest standards. And to me, real professionalism, that's not the level of real professionalism. Basically, if you're saying, our goal is to meet the standards that FOFA has presented to us, and we're just catching up to this, you are enormously late to the party. Because the purpose of FOFA and the purpose of those standards is to protect the public from the lowest common denominator that's been in the business, not the many financial planners and advisors who've been operating way above that standard for many years around the world. I think the key really is, and many of the dealer groups have already been doing these things, they've made all of these tools and resources available. The question really is, are the advisors and the planners actually using them? So you take any dealer group, they have dozens to thousands of planners and advisors. And in that same organization, you have some people who should probably be in jail. And then you have many more people who are doing a great job, and then you have another percentage that's doing a phenomenal job. And they're all in the same dealer group, they all have access to the same resources and tools. So the question really is why aren't more people using those resources and tools? They have planning software, they have statement of advice tools, they have all of the products, they have the investment products and the insurance products, and they have access to all these things. The challenge is, of course, is continuing to move more to actually use them and operate at a higher level. And I think in that sense, something like FOFA and some of the regulatory changes, it stirs the pot. It gets a conversation that I believe should always be there. It gets it sort of forced onto the table to be there.